The easiest way to compound money, the way I found when you have low money, we're talking about low money, not diversification. You're absolutely right. In fact, I think real estate is the easiest way. And the reason is very simple, because you go to a bank and the bank says, we'll give you 95%, even 97%. If you're a first time home buyer, you could do 3% down in America. I don't know about Canada, but we're talking about America.
3%. Yeah.
No, you can't do 3% down here. First time home buyers, even FHA loans, a bunch of stuff. You guys should read some books if you're curious. There's no other place where
someone to go to read the books. Definitely.
Amazon.com.
The library, bro.
It's a better place. It's called the library.
But my point is, nobody else gives you 97% financing for something. Like, you can't do that in stocks the same way without them taking it away as soon as it drops, basically, or crypto. As soon as it drops, they pull the rug from you. But real estate compounds your money really fast. And when I had $20,000, like you're saying, the first thing I did was buy a piece of real estate when I was 23 years old. That was the first thing I did with a partner. I only put in $5,000 and he put in $5,000. And then we spent the next 3 months fixing it with our own bare hands. And then that house made us $100,000 2 years later because the market was doing good. Yes. So that was the fastest way I compounded cash when I was young in order to even be able to afford Tesla stock and all these other things we're discussing. So I think that's
what about now though? The prices are off the charts. Real estate prices are off the charts.
This is the weird thing about real estate. It's always going to go up.
Yeah,
that's the weird thing. The second weird thing about real estate.
Context, what do you mean it's always going to go up?
No, meaning in over the 10, 20, 30 year, nobody treats real estate like this. You don't buy a piece of real estate and say, unless you're a flipper. Carlos here. Let's revisit this Facebook debate. All right, Carlos.
That's a Carlos, one half of Freelance Finance, and he's in Spain right now with his wife and his daughter. So
I've lost your question. What was it again? I've lost your question.
Oh, we're saying with the prices of homes now, would you still recommend that to?
I'm still buying homes, by the way. I'm still looking right now because at the end of the day, it's a math problem with real estate. It's like, okay, how much is rent? How much are my expenses? Does it all work out? How much am I taking for a loan? And the good thing about real estate, you don't want to use any money. So I know a lot of people, I'm not sure how Sean does it, maybe he buys all cash, but a lot of people use very little money in real estate, maximize their leverage because then their returns are massive. I don't know, Sean, if you want to chime in with this.
Sean does it right now, and then he'll talk about it.
Return on investment, that's very important.
Sean from Rest to Live here. Listen, if you're thinking about buying an investment property, a piece of commercial real estate, anything that you're looking for from an investment perspective, and you're really not sure, you haven't done it before, one of the easiest things you can do is to start to tour these places. Go to open houses of 2, 3, 4 family homes and listen to the kinds of questions that are being asked, right? There will typically be some other experienced folks there. They know what to ask. They know what to listen for. Your goal is not to figure out how to buy that place. Your goal is to figure out what they're looking at, why it's important, and how they come up with the math that they use to determine a good investment or one that isn't. It's also good to get comfortable with the way buildings are built, get into the basements, take pictures, understand, what an HVAC system is, why that matters, how the pipes look, what kind of materials are being used, do the walls leak or not, signs to look for. It's hard to be an investor, but it's a hell of a lot easier if you do the right things ahead of time. Thanks for watching. Perfect time.
Sean, how do we, and Vitaly, because you guys are the real estate guys here, how does someone get started if they have 20K to just get into real estate?
So listen, here's the deal, right? There are very few investments where you can go in and touch the walls and kick the tires and ask questions to the people who are actually selling and investigate the local market yourself. When you invest in a company, whether it's good or bad, or even in the case of Tesla, my guess is you haven't been in their corporate offices. You haven't sat at the desk with Elon to hear his thoughts. And so there's some degree of risk that is inherent in anything that you can't put your hands on and feel. The beauty of real estate is that there's an ebb and flow between the opportunity that exists within the marketplace you're targeting. So while residential real estate is currently going absolutely bonkers and insane, guess what isn't? Commercial real estate. Everyone's working at home. Office buildings are cheaper than ever. You can grab spots that are outdated and not being cared for. People are letting a lot of these properties slip. So there's always commercial property that exists that's in bad shape, that's underutilized, that's misutilized. And so as the retail market goes through the roof, like in my area, you forget about it. It's insane. To try to buy a house where I live is insane. But the commercial property, it's floor prices. That building I was touring the day that I made that video was freaking massive. And they only wanted 1.4 because they needed someone who could come in, reposition it, fight the local law on it, and then also work out some of the issues within the fieldstone basement. I've got a really good team behind me. I'm going to get to your question, though, a bit on get started. But like the key is over time you build these things. You know what to look for and how to look for it. You can make assessments really quick and easy. But there's a really simple thing I've been doing for a long, long time, and I have a business partner in real estate too. We're actually good friends. We go way back. We do it together. We came up with a formula that is an absolute yes or no, full stop, non-emotional. It either fits the parameters of our business or it doesn't. No matter what else, we don't care. It could be the greatest property I've ever seen. I've wished I could buy this building for the past 20 years. Doesn't fit, we don't buy it, period, full stop. So the way to think about getting started is, number one, this is going to be tough to hear, okay? You don't have to buy where you live. That's it. You don't have to buy in the most expensive areas. I live in Massachusetts, okay? Coastal town, coastal state. It's insanely expensive near the city. Massachusetts is a tiny state, but guess what? I literally drive 2.5 hours west. I'm like in a whole different world. You're not in Boston anymore. You're in rural Massachusetts,
Yeah.
where homes are going for, 200, 250K. And this is the most no bullshit thing you're going to ever hear when talking about this idea of negotiating and no down payments and all this other bull crap. If you're buying for the first time, you can put down 3% in most programs to get yourself a home. You get yourself a 2-family in House Hackett, you get a renter in there, that's even better. In Massachusetts, a heavily known urban area, but even though it really isn't, more than I would say 75% of Massachusetts falls within USDA. USDA loans require 0 down. That's how much they require.
Even
down.
better than the 3% I was talking about.
Yep. And this applies to New Jersey. This applies to Ohio. This applies to California, right? You need to not just look at where you are. If you're saying to yourself, I only have 20K, I can't buy real estate. Yeah, you can't buy real estate in Boston. You probably can't buy it in Dallas. You can't buy it in Trenton, New Jersey. But there are a lot of places you can buy it where there is demand for it. So just make sure you're within shooting distance of a major MSA, a metropolitan area, right? You understand the math behind it. Where do you get for rents? Like, I'll give you a perfect example. We buy strictly in the Southwest because the laws are very favorable, the prices are very workable, and the rents
Isn't
are
that
very,
where the mafia is?
the mafia in the Southwest, in Southeast rather. I don't know.
Oh,
Just so you know, I'm gonna have a more practical approach than Sean. So when I follow up with this,
Yeah, well,
I'm going to talk to the people who actually have no money and really need to.
Well,
Sean's
so-
talking like you're talking about Southwest. People shouldn't be looking 2.5 hours away max, because the problem is, as soon as a problem happens, you have to call somebody. And the best thing you do is you don't call somebody. You drive there and you learn how to fix it. That's the best thing you can do when you're starting out. That's what I did. I had to learn how to fix that plumbing, that electrical. And it sounds crazy, but you get a Home Depot book and you learn how to do it. Okay.
John, how do you deal with that if something bad happens and you're not?
I have never.
We're talking about day one. We're not talking about 20 years into it.
The very first house I ever bought was in Tennessee, and I live in Boston. I still to this day haven't seen that house. I still own it. I hire property managers who are reputable, who have long-term relationships with the attorneys I use down there. And I have never received a call from a tenant. I've never had to do a single thing except collect my rent every month.
What was your net worth when you bought that house?
I was full-time working. I mean, I had no money, nothing.
But you have to have some money for the property manager, right? At some level.
No,
Well, it's a percentage. It's a percentage of the rent.
8% of my rent goes to property manager.
That's a reasonable solution, Vitaly. That's not insane. to
Well,
me.
I want to give a Well, the problem is, okay. So I lived around New York, right? So if I had a property manager in New York, it's 10 to 20%. It's not 8%, by the way. It's different terms here around the New York area, New Jersey, and I'm talking about Jersey City actually. So still great opportunity. Anyone who's living around New York, you should check out Jersey City. Still, you can find deals right now if they want to look. Anyone? I don't know if anyone's from New York around here, but. Okay, so day one, when me and my partner knew nothing, we had almost no money because we were kids, by the way. I was like 23, he's 20. We took, I think it was 10 grand. We bought a $200,000 roach infested, like horrific house, needed new carpets, painting. I mean, it needed to be torn down and rebuilt. Well, let's face it. Like, I have pictures of all this, and one day maybe I'll share it on a YouTube thing, but we were not going to hire anybody. We had to learn how it worked. That's the other problem. You cannot hire anybody until you know how it works. How much is a plumber? How much is an electrician? How much is this? How much is a piece of sheetrock? How much is a cabinet? We knew nothing. Do you know what I'm saying? I got my father in the very first house to say, hey, how do I even paint? I didn't know how to do anything. Like, how do you paint this thing? In fact, when we first bought that house for $10,000, $200,000 house, we put down, what is that? Is that 5%? It's 5%. Put down 10 grand. We spent another $2,000. This is split between two people, by the way. It wasn't me alone. We put another $2,000 into paint and carpets, and that's basically it. And we roach bombed it ourselves. We were so cheap. We did not even hire the exterminator. We didn't want to pay him the $100. We bombed it from Home Depot like bombs for like a week straight. So I'm not saying everybody needs to go through the same thing, but I've learned so much doing that now I can hire any contractor and know exactly what I need to pay them. If you don't do that and you skip it over, like Sean is saying, no offense, you've basically missed the whole learning experience of what things cost in real estate. And then you'll always be paying way too much. That's what I think is going to happen.
So I will just agree to disagree. I think for depending on what your goal is,
it's a good solution.
if that's potentially the goal for sure, I think it makes sense. I approach it more from a business perspective of how do I get to 1,000 doors, and I don't even want to see them. It's no different than buying a REIT for me. They go into an LLC, they get packaged, and I eventually sell to a hedge fund. Like that's the way I'm approaching the real estate is stacking it, putting it into an up REIT, which is where I essentially go to other.
We're talking about day one. We're not talking about 10 years.
But I'm saying like even on day one, that's why I don't.
We need to see Vitaly's roadhouse. I have pictures.
Actually, now we got to see it. But like I think day one though, even getting simpler than what both of us just said, if you can go out and find a reasonable 2 or 3 family, reasonables, I know it's obtuse to say that nowadays. I get that. But like if you can find an opportunity to house hack and rent some rooms out to your buddies, maybe it's just a small condo. And if you get 2 or 3 people renting with you, that covers your bills. That's a great foot in to start building equity and get some of the growth that's happening. And there's also a lot of things you can write off on real estate. They're going to help you with your earnings and your savings as well. Yep. So anyways, yeah, I'll drill down everything I said into one single statement. 3% down is not a lot of money. Get some people to help you pay your rent, could be friends, whatever. And that's the easiest way to house hack your way into property 1. You can repeat it after 2 years in property 2 and pay no capital gains taxes when you sell that first one. Right? The advantages to doing this over a couple of years are huge. I'm not a CPA.
I want to repeat that, by the way. This is so important what he's saying. So real estate for Emmanuel, besides leveraging 97%, 2 years later, the government says, go ahead, do it again and keep all the money.
Yeah.
Don't pay any taxes, keep all the money, or do a 1031 exchange, which the government also lets real estate people do. Take the house, make all the profit, put it into a bigger house. They don't charge you anything for it. No taxes paid. That's
I
one.
just need to
Number
understand.
2,
You guys are talking about renting or selling the properties in the short term.
after you rent it, and let's say the prices went up, and you're like, well, now I can make 100,000 in 2 years
And
on
sell
this
it.
house. Maybe it's better I get another house. You can sell it, keep all the money because you live there, like he said, house hack, or do a 1031. You guys can look it up, and basically you get to keep the money again, and you get to upscale to the bigger house, like a commercial property, like a 6-family or a 4-family. No
And no
taxes
capital
paid.
gains. That's
No
great.
capital gains. No
The
taxes.
reason you don't pay capital gains is it's a deferred tax payment with the assumption that you're going to continue to improve the real estate you buy into bigger properties and keep growing that opportunity up. So it's an incentive to continue to improve properties and defer that into larger ownership. So at some point, perhaps you'll have to pay it, but it's going to be so far down the road and you can defer it that maybe your situation has changed. You're going to pay less for income taxes anyways and capital gain, et cetera, right? That's the real play there.
Honestly, you can defer it forever. That's the beauty of this. That's the government has went into business with real estate investors. Their lobbying is so strong that nobody else has this kind of privilege. So everybody should be in real estate if they learn all of these things,